Welcome to Follow Your Joy podcast, where intuition is the doorway to your wisdom, your genius, and your joy. I'm your host, Marla Diane, and I've been transforming creative entrepreneurs' lives for over 26 years. Through 2 businesses as a success coach and a business strategist, and prior to that, an entertainment publicist and a talent manager for 2 decades. It's time to make joy your inner GPS for life and business decisions rather than lean on your logic and reason first. You'll not only be following what is most authentic to you and for you, but you will live the beautiful life that's meant just for you. You'll come to learn that following your joy is a life and a business strategy. Listen in for inspiring entrepreneurial stories and solocasts that illuminate how by trusting your intuition, you'll create a fulfilling result. Want to learn how to access, trust, or up-level your intuition? Join me in the conversation to find out how. All right. It's 3 months into 2023. Creatives, how's your revenues? How's your cash flow doing? I have a fun, quick story about that. So during the Own Your Genius Zone 7-week group program that started in January and just completed, I had coached during session 3 the importance of upgrading your wealth consciousness and worth as a precursor to higher revenues and how to honor those rates now that you know your zone of genius, which is your highest level of creativity. And this brilliant wedding planner in the group of creative women was newly learning this kind of law of attraction, principle of increase. And so shortly after the session, she sees this quote, which I'm going to read in a minute. She sees this quote in her social news feed and is astounded. She literally, we just finished it. She posts in our private Facebook group, "You're not going to believe what I just saw, in the news feed." I don't know if it was Instagram or Facebook, but here's what it read. It was, it was an Abraham Hicks, quote. And it says, "The attraction of money has nothing to do with your ability to earn it. It has only to do with your wanting and believing of your worthiness to receive it." And I went, yes, right. This concept, as I said, was new to her, but boy, can you imagine the validation that she felt? And I love when that happens. I love when the universe, sends its signs, right? So my question for you, creatives, is how is your wealth consciousness this year so far? And could your self-worth use an up level to match your value? So the best way to honor your talents is to charge your worth. And I have 2 spots open for mentoring on that and learning a qualifying sales system. So use the link in the show notes to set up a call to see how this feels to you and how we could partner together to increase your bottom line and your worth. Yeah? All right. So very grateful to introduce my next guest. Yay. She is highly, and I mean underline that, highly creative with a compelling and varied story and background that led her to being the queen of card decks. Queen of card decks. Super, super smart gal. Rosie Batista is what she calls a cheerleader for your creativity and an advocate for your authentic voice. And she helps women over 50. Love that specific ideal client. She helps women over 50 tap into their creative genius, yes, to create what they love in life, products, and business. And she's always been a creative. She's always been a kind of a maker of things. She's always got these ideas, coming up. And she's had everything from a hand painted t-shirt line to a line of children's hats sold in over 400 stores throughout the country, a line of high-end women dresses, a book, cookbooks, journals, and card decks. Her ultimate goal is to be free, which is the entrepreneurial lifestyle which has provided for her. So, Rosie, welcome to the podcast.
Great to be here, Marla.
And if you could see what I see, Rosie has this beautiful smile. It's like this 1,000-watt smile. It's so great and beautiful energy.
Oh, thank you.
I always like to share, if I know the guest, how we kind of met. And so that is the case with you, is if I'm correct, and please, I stand corrected if not, is that you were in a free master class of mine in 2021 around your wealth consciousness, which then you ended up jumping into the money transformation program. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Awesome. Okay. Is that she did that, what was it, 6 weeks? Yeah. Okay.
It's great. Anyway, it was awesome. And say that.
Okay, good. Is that we met that way and she did beautifully. I mean, she's a high achiever and I love working with high achievers because, man, they don't let anything get in the way. They're just like, what's next? Okay, got it. Move on. What's next? And that's Rosie. So then we moved into a private program, entrepreneurial program, to up level your card program, right?
Yes.
Your offerings. Right.
That's right.
We spent a good, 6 months together? About?
Yeah.
I mean, altogether it was about 6 months.
Yeah, and I, made back every penny of that investment and much more.
Look at that, boy.
Much more. So everybody wants to hear that, right? Because
oh my gosh, return.
And then so that was really amazing.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, no, that's a coach's, as you know, being a coach, that's a coach's, music to my ears. Is like return on investment and then some.
Exactly. Yeah. And always, I think for coaching, sometimes we forget that, but you can't always count the return on investment in actual, money. Right. There's so much more to it, but I'm just talking about I'm not even talking about that part. I'm talking about the money part. So, yeah.
Right. Oh, great. Yeah. Thank you. That's a wonderful testimonial. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'm curious, where did cheerleader for your creativity and an advocate for your authentic voice come from? What's the magic behind that?
Well, I realized that through most of my life, I've been fighting for my voice. And I actually was just in a little creative writing class. And that's where I finally put it all together. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I've been told to shut up and be quiet pretty much from the time I was born, right? As are most of us. And through 2 marriages of always not being able to be myself, to realizing that in order to be really successful in life and in business, you need to let your authentic voice out and integrate all of the parts of you and who you truly are and show up that way. So that's what I want for everyone, to be able to tap into that authenticity of themselves and to create beautiful things.
Okay, I like that. When you said fighting for your voice, since you can remember, what were you doing that you were trying to speak yourself, right? Be yourself, and you were being told to quiet it down?
Yeah, well, it was everything from, when my first marriage, it was like, okay, you just stay home, watch the kids, I do the work, you're just going to do what women do. So it started kind of there. And, that didn't really sit well with me, because what I wound up doing was my resistance was still always there. And I put myself through college because I got, pregnant and married, right? Really young. And I put myself through college, and it took me 9 years to get my bachelor's degree in marketing. But I just would go on at night and study at night and on the weekends, and just pushed. And I would not let anything stand in my way from that, as even with people telling me and my husband telling me, no, I just kept pushing for it. And then it just went on like that. And even when I entered the bodybuilding competition, my first one at 50, right? Everybody told me, oh, you're crazy. Why would you want to do something like that? You shouldn't do that. That's ridiculous. Like, you're not going to be able to do that. All the things. And I was just like, that was the point at which I switched. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to stand on that stage, and I'm not going to listen to anybody. And it's not that those thoughts didn't go into my head, but it was the point in my life where I was able to figure out if you want to say curriculum, or my set of my own rules that I apply to it, and didn't listen to anyone else anymore.
That's right. That's right. I forgot about that bodybuilding experience. Oh my gosh.
Yes, that was big. That was a big one for me.
Yeah, share a little bit about that, because this is pretty, in addition, everybody, to her, create her vast creativity and always thinking and always coming up with stuff. Go ahead. She jumps in at 50 into this bodybuilding thing. Yeah, go ahead.
So the reason I jumped into that was because everyone listening can relate to those moments when you might call it a dark night of the soul, or just like a black cloud that seems to be following you around, where everything is like wrong in your life, right? So I'm not going to go into the details of what it was, but it was that moment when I found myself on the floor just crying and saying, okay, you know what? I don't know what to do anymore, God. I'm like, I don't know what to do. You need to tell me what to do. And I heard that, like, enter a bodybuilding competition. I'm like, okay. Okay. Right. So I sat with that for a while, and I started to talk myself out of it. And anyone I told would, of course, mirror back and try to talk me out of it. Right. And it was that moment that I said to my son, and he's like, Mom, you need, and my adult son, either stop talking about it or do it. Like, I don't want to hear it anymore if you're not going to do it. And if you're not going to do it, then stop talking about it. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I got like kind of a little annoyed at my son, but then I'm like, okay, I'm going to commit to this. I'm going to do it. I signed up, and then it was like, okay, I have this much time in which to get on that stage. And then I just went, and I don't want to say full in. I went in. And then halfway through, I'm like, I can't do this. How can I do this? This is so hard. And that's when I started to get those messages of a life lesson. And one of the ones that, if you don't mind, I share this because it really is so useful to no matter what you're doing in your life. And that was fall in love with the idea. So I was walking one day, and it was like, I was like halfway through to the point, and I was like, I was so tired, so exhausted, so sick of like having to do all this, like caring for myself, not going out, not eating, all of that. And I had this conversation which said, you get to do this. You chose this. You get to, and you need to fall in love with this idea. And so then I said, oh, well, I get to be this figure competitor. I get to stand up on stage in this beautiful purple rhinestone little bikini. I get to do that. So I started to switch the way I thought about it, that I'm actually really in love with, I get to do this. I'm in love with this idea that and like in an instant, I had more energy and more, vitality to actually do it. Because when you're in love with stuff, right, it makes it a little bit different than you have to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a big shift.
Yes.
So
yeah, life lessons.
Well, it's wonderful. It's a mindset shift.
That's right.
I mean, that's really what you did, which is just super smart. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to say I wouldn't, but I don't know if I could do what you did. Wow. That's incredible. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like this side story to her, the creative Rosie, right? And all the things that you were doing. Because I remember when I first, met you and we started talking more and so forth. I went, you were what? And I think I
Yeah.
saw some videos or something online with
Yeah.
you doing whatever you were doing. I go, what is this figure thing? Where are you
Right.
going? It's like it seemed like so separate from what you were doing, but yet it was so integral in who you were in your journey.
Well, yeah. And so in the creative part of it, right, it was like me creating me. And when I first did it, I didn't really understand. It seemed to be just a physical thing, right? And everyone could look at it like that, which was a lot of people's opinion in the beginning was like, why are you so, what's that word for like, you only care about how you look or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
But what
Superficial.
happened on that stage was that I had this divine moment of like awakening on that stage. It's like the lights were shining on me, and I felt like, phew, like something came to me, and the message was, you've always had everything you needed inside of you, and you need to tell everyone that they have everything they need inside of them all the time. And it's just was the most perfect, information that I could receive. And I knew I had to really share that message. And so it changed who I was on a spiritual level, not just physically. So you start somewhere in the change,
Yeah.
and it's like a domino effect. It affects everything.
I love that. It was the Dorothy of Wizard of Oz moment.
There you go.
It's the same thing
That's right.
right? That Glenda, the good witch, said to her, click your heels. You've always had what you wanted, or what was it? You've always had what you've needed all along. Whatever that statement is in that
Yes.
movie, it's the same thing.
And I love it because one of the things that you had to wear, part of the uniform was, these, I said 3 or 4 inch, like, uh, they almost look like Cinderella slippers because they're clear, right? And that's what you have to wear because, like, your legs look better, everything's better.
Yeah.
And those were my shoes. Those were my magic ruby slippers.
There you go, the magic ruby slippers.
That's right.
It really is. It's the Dorothy moment
Mhm.
for you.
Mhm.
Aw,
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
good. I love that. Um,
Mm.
okay, good. So authentic voice. So in other words, you also then, being that this is your kind of your platform, that's what you do for your women, which we'll get into in just a moment. Um, with the card deck.
Yeah. And I didn't realize it at the time. Again, right? It's like just a bodybuilding competition, but yet it's a spiritual awakening. Just a card deck, but yet you're really unleashing your authentic voice and message, something that you've been scared to let everyone see. It's
Ah.
now you have no choice because you just made a physical product. And it's like, it's a different feeling because now this is like there for people to touch and it's proof, right?
Yeah.
And so you go through all the things like, well, what if it's not going to be good enough? And what if no one buys it? And what if it doesn't work? And so I see all of these women coming up against that in their creative process, but then coming out the other side with this amazing amount of confidence and wisdom and more deeper understanding about what it is that they're teaching and what it is that they're here to do. So it's been a very special process for me, and being able to be that advocate for them to be able to show up in that new way, being
Yeah.
who they truly are.
It's like it's like the cards, and I know, we went into a lot of discussions, fun discussions about this during your coaching. But what just hit me is that it's like the cards are the facade, if you will, the front, where behind the facade, which is what you just explained, it's really a channel for these women to up level into their authentic voice, into those hidden, I don't know how to market this part of me.
That's right.
And I want you to know, everybody, you really got to go to her site. You got to follow her on Instagram and Facebook. It's so, so creative. All these women, her hundreds of women that have created these cards, these card decks. I mean, Rosie takes the card deck concept to a whole new level. Because, an immediate response, which you probably hear, on and off, is like, a card deck? What do you mean that can
Yeah.
actually upgrade my brand? Okay, that
Yeah.
sounds kind of cute, or that
Right.
sounds kind of cool. But honestly, and that leads us to the next question. It does, and there's so many levels that go on with Rosie. So anyway, so let me ask you then, yeah, the next question is, what brings you the most joy in your business and your work?
Yeah, well, I mean, thank you for asking me that. I'm going to just give you a real life example because
Great.
two
Okay.
nights ago, I had something that I called Card Deck Mastery. And that was prompted by one of my card deck graduates sending me an email about something amazing that had happened with her and her card deck. And I'm like, oh my God, I need to tell everyone about this. So her story was when she came to me, she had these beautiful paintings that she had done with her hands, and they were kind of intuitive paintings. And she was working through her mom being sick and her daughter just being diagnosed with cancer. So the way she dealt with it was just to do these paintings every week as kind of a healing thing for them and for herself. And so when she came to me, she never even thought about a card deck. Someone had recommended it. And she came, she wasn't really techy. She didn't even know anything about it. So long story short, we put the card deck together. And her what she came to the call with was to tell us two really important things: that she created a little program teaching people to use her card deck that uses frequency numbers for healing. And she was just accepted into the International Institute of Kinesiology.
Oh,
Her course is accredited, and she's teaching people to use her card deck for healing. And her daughter is now healed from cancer. And that's just one person that used her deck. Like, she has a list of people that have been healed by using it.
that's
So
amazing. What is
that
the
brings me joy.
name? What's the name of her card deck and her?
Her name is Marion Egan,
Mhm.
and it's I think it's called the Magic of Art is her company, but
Okay.
it's the
Well,
frequency numbers.
find it, and we'll put it in the show notes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And that brings me that just like, well, how could, that would light anybody up. It's like, oh my God, someone that didn't really understand the power of her own self,
Yeah.
like actually bringing herself out and pushing against so many obstacles, even printing, because she lives in Ireland. And so we came up against printing issues, but we figured it out. So every single obstacle, the point is that she always showed up and she wasn't willing to stop. And she just kept on pushing against her fears.
Yeah.
And that's what I love to see that. And I love to see someone come out and be so fulfilled when they really tapped into
Yeah.
what's available, what's always been available.
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
you're a great, I mean, cheerleader is an understatement for sure for you, is that, you're a great one to take a stand for somebody like that, because you do it in your own life. And I
Right.
know, and I'm going to mention this, maybe this is another episode since we, want to stay focused on this, but you take a stand when you have a belief, and me knowing you, it's like, when you have a belief, it's like, there's no way budging this girl. And, one of her passions is freedom of voice in America and the Constitution. And I'd like to have you back to talk about that.
I love that.
I know. And this is another part of her life that is equally passionate for her as the creativity and the card decks and all that. So
Yeah, thank you.
I know when you say what you say about her and the joy that it brings you, it's true. It's really, really true. I mean, the integrity that Rosie has for this whole concept of helping women literally evolve through a card deck,
Right.
it's like,
It
but it's
sounds crazy,
true.
right?
It's true.
Yeah.
There's so much more to it. Great story, Rosie. Yeah, really, really good story. Therein lies what brings her joy. And trust me, she has dozens of stories like that. Because I
Oh,
know you used to do those online parties or something, the Facebook,
yeah.
right?
And that was one of them. I it was a party, but I said it was more about mastery because I was actually showing people that had like been exploding with what was happening with
Okay.
the cards, like either making back all their investment, making money, doing some kind of making some kind of major impact,
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Yeah.
or starting a class or a course around their card deck. So the people that responded to me and were able to show up for this call and share, that's what I did at this
Okay.
party specifically.
Is
Yeah.
this is this open to the public or just the people that have done cards?
Well, I put it on Facebook. I'm inviting everyone to see what's possible for themselves,
Oh,
even
okay. Uh-huh.
because it's like you said, people don't associate a card deck. They think about like the tarot cards or
Right,
playing cards or oracle cards or
right,
angel
right.
cards.
Uh-huh.
But I take it, like you said, I'm like, there's no business that I can't come
Mhm.
up with an amazing idea
Correct.
to get this information, what your process, your system, your wisdom
Hmm.
into the hands of your clients in an easily absorbable, like golden nuggets of information that they actually will use
Yeah.
our very distracted time that we live in.
Okay. How could somebody, because we're here on the podcast, how could somebody who's interested attend one of those Facebook presentations that you do?
So the best way to would be to well, I have a free gift that you can have, which is 250 card deck ideas that you can
Mhm.
think about. And once you get that, you'll be on my mailing list
On your
and
email list, got it. Okay. How often?
invites.
Hmm.
I do those like 4 times a year, the
Oh, gotcha.
parties.
Okay. Okay. All right. So we'll definitely have that in the show notes, everybody, is the download for her free, 250 card deck ideas.
Yes.
And they're for real.
And you can look on YouTube also. I do a whole interview series
Oh,
of the people that graduate with a card deck, and I do
aha.
an interview, and those interviews are all up on my YouTube channel under my name, which is Rosie Batista, and those are really fun to see because I will ask them, what has this process, what have you learned most about yourself during this process? And a lot of those answers make me cry right on that darn screen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they've really tapped in and really reached in,
Mm.
um, and once you start into that process, there's not you can't really get yourself out of it. Like it starts to really suck you in, like Marla, right? You're like, okay, well, I'm just gonna keep taking the next step and going forward, right?
Right. Yeah, it's the creative energy and synergy of it. But that's a really good idea, is everybody go to her YouTube channel. And again, I'll have the link in the show notes. You can observe, Rosie interviews them.
And you could peek at my bodybuilding competition too.
Is that on there too?
It
Is
is.
that on there too? Okay. All right. I will definitely make sure the link is in there. Okay. So terrific. Let's move on because I know we have a certain amount of time here. So yeah, and this okay. So the next question being that my premise to follow your joy is that pay attention. Joy is a life and a business strategy, right? It's not just a good feeling. And I am a huge advocate, as you know, about listening to your intuition, right? First, and then use logic to put action to it. All right. So the question is, share a story, right, about life or business where you followed your intuition and it led to a joyful, fulfilling result.
Well, I will say that I was given a friend of mine said, I'm going on this retreat in Florida. I have a free ticket. Do you want to come with me? And I was like, okay, like my initial response. And then as time went on, it was time to pack and everything. I'm like, oh, why am I going to this stupid thing? Why am I going? I don't really want to go. And what did I say yes for? But I already said yes, I committed, so I'll go. And when I went there was a woman leading the thing, and I was in a big transition period at the time, switching from my health and wellness business to really wanting to do this creative thing and loving making card decks and journals and all of that. It was the fact that I said yes. And then when I went there, the woman on stage, there was something about her, and I'm like, I need to coach with her. And I snuck up during an intermission and I showed her my card decks. And she said to me, do you think you can teach people to do this in a course? And I was like, I don't know. I never did that before. I never thought of that before. And she said, okay, well, if you want to coach with me, this is how much it is. The only thing I can guarantee you is that you're going to be giving me that much money. And what you do with it is going to be your. And I'm like, oh, but I don't have that much money. And I said, okay, I'm gonna not go in my head. I'm gonna stay out of this danger zone, and I'm gonna just see if what is my heart saying, and my heart saying, do this, and I did it, and that really was the trajectory, like the change. When you go one small thing off, like onto a course, it was like one small little switch over. Mm-hmm. And that changed my whole business because I created the course. And now I have, like you said, hundreds and hundreds of women coming through. And I was able to now expand on what I teach and how I serve. And from that moment, though, of following my heart and not my head, which is the best advice that anybody could follow. Right. And so, yeah, that's the one story.
Well, you're like the ideal guest on this podcast. I mean, everything that, you and I as creatives love to advocate. It's like you're right there, man. It's like you listen to your heart, you listen to your intuition. It's like you take action on that. You don't let logic get in the way. It's like,
and you get good at that, right, Marla? Like
mm-hmm.
in the beginning, you kind of fight it, but then okay, you just stop and you just ask, where's this coming from? Is this based on like fear head, or is this like based on what I love to do?
That's
and
it.
Like now I say a heck yes to what I would love to do.
Yeah. Follow the joy.
Follow the
joy. That and that's what will often come with when I'm coaching this, and I know about you as well when you're coaching your clients, is the difference between logic and intuition. And when they say, well, there's some fear around it, I said, but what is stronger, the joy and excitement or the fear?
I love that.
And if the joy and excitement weighs more on you than the fear, that's what you need to do. If it's the fear's bigger, it's not your intuition, and don't follow it. I mean, that's like a simplified version, right? Do you agree?
I agree.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like literally, we're all going to have fear around change, and especially something that may not make sense. And intuition usually never makes sense. It's like, why would I be doing this? It's not supposed to make sense. And so intuition, follow that, trust it, and know, yeah, you're going to have a little bit of butterflies going on in your stomach. Like, I don't know. That's a good thing.
Right. It's like, it's trusting what you're not seeing in front of your face.
That's right.
At the moment. But you so much that you just believe so much that it's going to be there, that you can see it and you can feel it. And then it's gonna be there for sure.
Yeah. Just measure it. Is there more joy than there is fear? Then you got a good one. So, okay. Very good. And then your best advice, which you've just mentioned, is to stay out of your head and follow your heart. Amen, sister. Good. All right. And you shared with us before we complete today, is where people can get in touch with you. And again, I'll have the link in the show notes, everyone, to sign up for Rosie's 250 card deck ideas handout. And let's see. And of course, your website, rosiebatista.com. Right. And you're on Instagram. Is it Queen of Cards?
Queen of Card Decks.
Queen of Card Decks.
Yeah, that's a fun place. You'll see you'll be inspired by lots of different ideas and what different people have done.
Okay. And Facebook is, your contact at Facebook is Rosie Batista, or which one do you prefer?
Yeah, Rosie Batista on
Rosie.
everything.
Okay, excellent. Very, very good. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. This was great fun.
Yeah, I could definitely have a much longer conversation, that's for sure, around this whole intuition thing. So everybody, yes, until next time or next episode, as you work and live, right? Always follow your joy. Listen to that, intuition, please. And it's that vibe in your joy that's trying to tell you something. So please pay attention to that and know that you matter. All right. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening in. You can find more entrepreneurial stories and resources at marladiane.com. And while you're there, enjoy my 3 free downloads to up-level your business and your life. How about you take a screenshot of this episode and tag me on Instagram by sharing your highlights of what you learned today? I'd love to connect there with you. Until next episode, take care.